technical delays, but I'm going to start off the presentation and then Terry will join us towards the end. So first of all, I'll just talk to you about Healthcare Australia and what we have to offer. Healthcare Australia is one of Australia's largest recruitment agencies, and we have work across all scopes for health workers. We've got nursing roles, midwifery roles, allied health, doctors and support workers. And we have work available with flexible agency work, locum work and permanent jobs. To work in Australia, there's three main requirements: a certain amount of experience, working rights and registration with AHPRA. AHPRA is the registration board for health professionals, and the Nursing Midwifery Council comes under AHPRA. There are two registration pathways for nurses. New Zealand nurses can register under the Trans-Tasman Mutual Recognition pathway. This is a fast-track process which will take around about 2 to 4 weeks. For internationally qualified nurses, there is a longer process. The minimum requirement is a bachelor's degree, and there are 8 different criteria that nurses need to meet. So it's very important that you go onto the AHPRA website and have a look at this before you start this process. The average time, as I said, is about 3 to 6 months. If you get all your documentation in correctly the first time round, then the registration processing time will be a little bit quicker. There is a requirement to have an eligible working visa for Australia. Nurses that are under 31 years of age can come in on a working holiday visa. This visa allows nurses to work up to 12 months. Some countries can extend up to 24 months. There are only certain countries which are eligible for this working holiday scheme. For nurses that aren't eligible for this, the other options would be either a permanent residency visa or a sponsored work visa. The sponsored work visa is a visa which is sponsored by a prospective employer, and this allows nurses to work for up to 4 years in Australia, and they can take their dependents with them. The skilled permanent residency visa is a points-based visa, and if you go onto the immigration website, more information can be obtained about this visa. There are a few other visa options. The immigration website will give these options, so have a look at that if there's something that you're not sure about or you don't know what sort of visa to apply for. New Zealand passport holders can work in Australia automatically. There is a Trans-Tasman agreement which allows nurses or New Zealanders to go and work in Australia without any particular visa. Healthcare Australia has a range of options. We'll talk about agency nursing to start with. Agency nursing is a flexible work arrangement. This allows nurses to travel across Australia or stay in one location, just purely depending on what you want to achieve when you're in Australia, whether you want to have a travel and work experience or whether you're happy just to stay in one location. We have 18 agencies in Australia, so we're covering basically the whole of Australia with work. There is no requirement to reapply if you want to work between states or between our offices. Once you've made one application with us, we can just transfer your file. Agency nursing has many flexible options. You can work the shifts that you want, the time you want. You can take time off when you want. We also have some great incentives. If you work for our agency for 500 hours within a 6-month time frame, which is basically around about 3 months, Healthcare Australia will reimburse your flight to Australia up to $1,000. To make it easy for nurses working for Healthcare Australia, we have developed our own app, which you can download onto a phone or a tablet. This will allow you to book your shifts, confirm your shifts, submit your timesheets, view your pay slips, and do everything on the run if you happen to be, travelling and wanting to move around. The opportunities with Healthcare Australia: you can start working with us as an agency nurse if you so desire. This gives you a bit of an indication of what you can earn with working only 9 shifts. If you were to work for Healthcare Australia for a longer time frame, you can see what you can earn in 125 shifts. And for nurses who decide they'd like to stay in Australia longer, we can help you with permanent jobs and opportunities for sponsorship through the hospitals. If you have the desire to work beyond the metropolitan areas, we have work in the rural and regional locations. These roles are normally contracted for a period of time of 2 to 3 months, and there is the opportunity to experience outback lifestyle, have a look at the different culture Australia has, and for those who want to work permanently in Australia, Healthcare Australia can facilitate roles across Australia. We have opportunities for sponsorship for people that can't obtain, or they don't have a working visa for Australia. We can help with this in certain locations. This visa is sponsored by the employer. So if you are working on a sponsored visa, you can you have the opportunity to work for 2 years. We require a 2-year commitment to start with, but the visa is valid for 4 years. We have many bulk recruitments going on at the moment, recruitment projects, so there are different roles in different locations and different specialties. If you have any friends who are working in allied health, or our doctors, we have our allied health division. We also have our doctors division, which is LML Medical. We have locum and contract work available, and there are opportunities across Australia for this sort of work. Now, if Terry is able to speak to us, we'll get Terry to give us her impression of working in Australia as a nurse. If anyone's got any questions at this time, we're waiting. If you'd just like to email those through to the chat room, and my colleague Erin will answer those for you. If you're interested in extending your visa up to the 2nd year, there is a requirement. This is for Canadian nurses at this stage. You have to work for 8 weeks in a horticultural kind of environment or in the rural sector in the 1st year. If you want to extend, this is to allow you to extend for your 2nd year if you've got a Canadian working holiday visa. The 189 visa is a permanent residency visa. You'd need to go on and do a points calculation. This visa is sort of individualised for your circumstances, so there's different points for different, if you meet certain criteria. So you would really need to go on to the immigration website if you're looking at a 189 visa and do the points calculation and see if you have enough points to apply for this visa. Currently, our roles are clinical roles, so we don't have any work for medical receptionists. It is really clinical hospital roles, nursing, allied health and doctors. The minimum requirement for registration in Australia is a bachelor's degree. So generally a postgraduate diploma or a diploma would not be equivalent for, it wouldn't be a high enough qualification for registration with AHPRA. The question about psychiatric nurses, we do have roles for psychiatric nurses, but you would also have to have a bachelor's degree to be eligible for registration with AHPRA. There is also a question about paramedics. We have in the past had some opportunity in the rural sector for paramedics, but this would be something we'd need to look into further on a case-by-case basis. There are quite a few questions here about immigrating to Australia. I think that we need to probably get back to people individually on some of these questions. But if you'd like to email those through to us, either at the UK, if you're in the UK, at ukhealthcareaustralia.com.au, or if you're in New Zealand or North American, you can email your questions about immigration through to nz@healthcareaustralia.com.au. We also have a Facebook group for working holiday nurses, which you can raise some of your questions there as well. With the someone has asked a question about sponsorship. The sponsored work visa would be issued for 4 years. Initially, the employers will be looking for a 2-year commitment, but if you have got that sponsored work visa, you have got 4 years on that visa. Opportunities for paediatric nurses, we have agency work for paediatric nurses. A couple of our agencies, one in Brisbane and Adelaide in South Australia, have a lot of paediatric nurse, so we can definitely utilise paediatric skills for working holiday nurses. Our minimum requirement, if nurses want to work for Healthcare Australia with agency, is 12 to 24 months, depending on specialty. Generally, with a permanent role, we'd be looking for more experienced nurses with probably about 2 years' experience. A question about our office location. In Queensland, we do have an office on the Gold Coast, in Brisbane, also Townsville and the Sunshine Coast. Our roles generally are just hospital clinical roles, so there isn't any opportunity for community work at this time. Further questions about recovery disability nurses. We do have work for recovery nurses. We've got lots of work. We've got permanent roles, and we also have agency work. We do have opportunity as well for learning disability nurses. We can give you further information about this if you would like to email your CVs through to our UK or NZ email addresses. For those moving from the UK to Australia, the correct ARPRA form is the AGS 40. Lots of work. A question about surgical and gynae nurses. We do have a lot of work for surgical nurses. Gynae would be, there'll be a limited opportunity, but if gynae nurses can do surgical as well, there's plenty of work. Probably mainly with agency work rather than permanent jobs, depending on location. Now, A&E work, yes, there is A&E. We have opportunity for A&E nurses. There is plenty of work in the rural sector for A&E nurses. We have also at the moment got some permanent recruitment jobs, projects which are looking for A&E nurses in Queensland and also Melbourne. Melbourne does require postgraduate qualification in A&E, but we have permanent roles available in Queensland. And with our agency and rural work, generally a postgraduate qualification isn't required. Someone is asking if rural work is obligatory. This is only if you're wanting to extend a working holiday visa, but not in terms of requirements for Healthcare Australia. We don't insist you go out to the rural sector. That's just an option for those that would like to do that. But if you're wanting to extend a visa, then you do have to work in the rural sector for 8 weeks in the first year of your visa. An explanation about rural work. Rural work is short-term contracts in the rural sector, so generally, or regional areas, which is, we would classify towns of about 20 to 60,000 as regional, and less than that as rural. The big metropolitan areas have the agency work, but outside of that we have the rural opportunities, which are just short-term work. A lot of the work is for midwives, theatre nurses, mental health and A&E nurses. "12 months full-time experience, but that will depend on the clinical area. If it's a specialty area, then it's possible that you might need to have 24 months experience. We'd have to give people individual advice on that. There is work in paediatric intensive cares, as well as paediatric wards. We have plenty of work in Sydney and Melbourne. Once again, it depends on your specialty and experience, but we have agencies and we have permanent job opportunities. We have a question about community nursing. We would require hospital experience. We can't cross over. To work with one of our agencies, we do require hospital experience. There is a difference working in the community and working in a hospital, and as an agency nurse, there is an expectation that you have the skills and experience to go and work in a hospital ward for a day. Agency work is day-by-day work, working across different facilities. So a certain level of experience and confidence is required to do this work. For midwives wanting to work in Australia, there isn't an absolute requirement that midwives are nurses as well. We have opportunity for both direct, independent and midwives who only have a midwifery degree, as well as nurses, RN midwives. With a working holiday visa, you can't take a partner. If your partner is not eligible for their own working holiday visa, I'd have to look at some other visa. But a working holiday visa is for single travellers with no dependents. There's a question about accommodation. We can assist people with websites and various ideas where to find accommodation, but we don't actually find that for you. If you are working rurally, that accommodation is provided with the contract. But we have our Working Holiday Facebook group. Often nurses who are in Australia are advertising for flatmates. And we have a working holiday handbook we can send out to people that have accommodation ideas on that in that handbook. There is a good question here about a working holiday visa with not being able to work for one employer for more than 6 months. That is correct if you're going into a permanent job. There is a 6-month limit. Working with Healthcare Australia's agencies, we can allow nurses to work for the full 12 months because we'd be placing you into different hospitals. It looks like Terry is now with us. So
okay. Okay. Can you hear me?
Is the audio?
Yeah. Yay! You can all hear me. Cool. Okay. So we've had some serious technical difficulties. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so this is so weird. It's not like Snapchat at all. Thank you all for being so patient. Okay, so I suppose, will I close the door? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I'm here today in the Healthcare Australia office, and we just said that we do a bit of a webinar to answer some questions that you guys have. There is, can see that you're all using it, the question box below. So just keep typing away. I have some people that are going to help me answer questions. So work away. Any questions that you have while I'm talking, just work away, and the guys will answer them for you. So, yeah, I see that you all had a look at the lovely little, they had a little slideshow popping up there, so I hope that you all enjoyed that. Just to give you a little bit of an insight on what I've been through and my experience so far with Healthcare Australia, I said I'll start from the top. So back in 2015, if some of you were following me, you'll know that I decided I was going to head over traveling to Australia and through Southeast Asia. So around February last year, February 2015, I decided that I was going to do that. So basically what I did was I Googled the first agency that I could find, which was Healthcare Australia, and did a bit of research on them, and they seemed really reliable, so I decided I'd go with them. So my first thing that I had to do from there was my APRA. So have any of you heard of APRA, or any of you thinking about coming to Australia, and have you looked at the APRA website? So basically, On Board Altruist is the Board of Ireland, as you all know, and APRA is the Board of Australia. So in order for you to come and work in Australia, you need to have your APRA form and your APRA registration. Now, APRA can take a little while. For those of you who don't know what APRA is, it's APHRA, if you want to write that down and look it up after you watch this webinar. So yeah, so basically I applied for my APRA. It can take a long time and it can take a short time. Mine only took 6 weeks, but I've heard stories that it can take up to 3 months to 6 months to wait on your registration to come through. Now this is dependent on how well you fill out your form itself. So what I would advise for you to do is just to really read the form. It's not something that you're going to get done overnight. It's something that's going to take about 3 weeks to 4 weeks to prepare. So you're going to need all your transcripts from your college. Yeah, so if you go onto the website, I'll give you a list of everything that you need and how to apply for your APRA registration. So yeah, I applied for that last year, I'd say around February or March. And I'll just dismiss this, sorry. There's a few things popping up on my screen. Sorry, guys. Cool. Okay. So yeah. So basically, my APRA. Where was I? Yeah. So I applied for my APRA last year around April, May, I'd say, and then it came through around June. So I booked my flight. I went traveling, and then I arrived in Australia in November last year. So when I arrived on the Thursday. I had already registered with Healthcare Australia, and I went into APRA, proved who I was on the Friday, and I was working with Healthcare Australia then by the following Thursday. Working with Healthcare Australia has absolutely changed my life. It's all about flexibility. I choose my shifts, I choose when I want to work, I choose where I want to work, how often, and it's just been incredible so far. So instead of me kind of waffling on a little bit, I'm going to answer some of your questions that are coming up here. So I'm going to have a little read. Is there a big difference between nursing in Australia as opposed to Ireland? Yes, huge difference. So one of the differences that I noticed, first of all, was the patient-nurse ratio. So back at home in Ireland, we teamed a nurse back at home in the ward that I was working on, and at one time it would be myself and another RN, so a registered nurse, and we'd have about 16 patients. I'd say that's kind of a common thing to have about 8 patients back at home, and maybe you'll have a student nurse or a healthcare attendant working with you. So when I came to Australia, I worked in a public hospital first of all, and I had 4 patients. 4. So yeah, that was a huge difference, and the money is an awful lot better here, and just the general kind of the shift work is a lot easier. So back at home I used to start work at 7:30 in the morning and finish at about 8:30 at night, and here I start at 7:30 and then I work until 3:30, or I can do the afternoon shift, which is 2:30 until 10 o'clock at night, or the night shift is 10 o'clock until 7 o'clock in the morning, or 9:30 until 7 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, that's one of the huge differences, 3 of the huge differences. So patient workload, I suppose just the shift work, and the money was definitely better. So how much experience did you need? So we at Healthcare Australia recommend that you guys have at least 12 months experience. I'm not sure, I don't think that's including your internship as a student nurse. So it's 12 months post-grad. So the reason why we recommend that is that we need you guys to hit the ground running. So it's to cover yourself as well. So if you're going to come over, you want to have that little bit of experience, and you want to be able to, you know, really look after yourself and the patients on the ward. You don't want to be coming over here as a new grad and just being like, oh my God, this is so different to at home. This is so different to how I trained back at home. You need to have those that kind of common sense that you do develop in your first year of nursing as a registered nurse. So I'll just read some more. Are you thrown into deep end? Oh my God, 4 patients. I can see all these laughing. Okay, so are you thrown into the deep end? No, absolutely not. So when I first arrived, I was 4 years qualified, and I was still a little bit like, oh my God, how am I going to work on this ward? I don't know anything. But when you do arrive, you just let the ward know, look, this is my first shift in Australia. They do offer a buddy system in all the hospitals here if you're really unsure, so they can buddy you up with a nurse. And there's ward educators that work on the ward, so they're all incredible. So every single ward that you go to will have a ward educator, and they are so helpful. So you just let them know, look, this is my first few shifts. I'm kind of still a little bit learning the ropes. They have no problem helping you. Their patient workload is quite small, so they're happy just to get in there and just be like, right, okay, this is, you know, how you look up your medications. This is, you know, the IVs that we use here. This is our policies. You know, this is what our routine is. This is how our, you know, our med charts. So your Cardexes, they're all called med charts over here. So this is what your med charts look like. This is what you have to do, and these are our procedures, blah, blah, blah. So they're really, really helpful. And I did absolutely, you know, I hounded them when I first got here. I was like, oh, can you just help me with this? I'm not too sure about how you give this antibiotic, because there is quite, we use a lot of, I suppose, antibiotics differently back at home than they would here. So that was one of my main things. It was like IVs, and, you know, and the med chart is quite different, and change can be really hard, but it's doable. It's so doable. And once you kind of get the swing of it, it's just smooth sailing from there. So what is your speciality, Terry, or do you find wherever you are, or do you go wherever you are needed? I think that meant. So my background was Max Fac's plastics and general kind of surgery. When I had a lot of experience with kind of pre and post-op, so surgical, and the ward that I worked on wasn't just Max Facs and plastics. It was, you know, we got everything. We just got everything. So I was quite experienced with regards to, you know, a bit of medical and a bit of surgical. So when I came here, I filled out a form with Healthcare Australia, and basically I told them what my competencies were, what I was comfortable working in, where I was comfortable working in, and they've allocated me as per my competencies and as per where I'm comfortable. So I was never thrown out of my scope of practice. I was never put anywhere that, you know, I wasn't comfortable working. I think one day I was sent to an oncology ward, and I just told the ward educator, look, I've got minimal experience with medical patients, and she said, no problem. So she put me with 4 patients that were, you know, really, really low, I suppose, low workload, and they weren't really that sick. So just as long as you know, tell the right people about how you're feeling, about your scope, you know, just never do anything that you are not comfortable doing. You know, if in doubt, leave it out. That's my motto with nursing. So if you're ever like unsure, you know, you just let them know, and they can change you. They can also allocate you somewhere else. So I've never really felt like I was out of my scope. I've always kind of felt like Healthcare Australia has been really good with knowing where I'm good and where I'm not good. So have you found you have gone back to certain hospitals frequently, or have they asked for you to come back? Yes, oh my God. So one of the main hospitals that I love to work in is St. Vincent's over here, and they have a great, sorry, I'm like all, mixing up my words. So yeah, they've got a great relationship with Healthcare Australia, and they use the nurses here regularly. So I'm mainly sent to St. Vincent's Hospital, which I love. It's like one of the best hospitals in Sydney, and I just really love working there because the quality of care is really good. So yes, if you do make a good impression with the nurse managers, they always ring and they always say, oh, can we get Terry back just for the day, or, you know, can Terry do a night shift? They want you back if you're good, rather than sending somebody that kind of is a little bit, you know, not as I suppose enthusiastic as what you would do. So that's another bit of advice that I'd give, is that when you first come here and you first do your first few shifts, just try and get in there with the NUMs, we call them. So that'd be like the C&M, so the nurse unit managers, and try and get in with them. Just introduce yourself, you know, give it your best shot. Never work outside your scope of practice. They love when you ask questions, just like the way that we loved agency nurses back at, well, the way that we treated agency nurses back at home. So if you had an agency nurse come to your ward and they were just doing their own thing, you'd be kind of going, or are they okay? You'd rather if they kind of came up and asked you questions, just check in with you. So just the same thing that you'd expect from an agency nurse back at home to have here, and just to apply it to how you work. So are you responsible? Hold on. I was told that HCA work for private hospitals and at Christmas they close and there's minimum work. Is that true? So Healthcare Australia they work with private hospitals and public hospitals. I was here last year, and from my experience, I had work and I was out the door with work last year. Now it does quieten down with regards to private hospitals, but they can allocate you then to public hospitals. So honestly, hand on my heart, last year I was working Christmas Eve, I worked Stephen's Day, Boxing Day they call it over here. I worked after Boxing Day. I was booked in public hospitals all the way through Christmas. So again, it's just kind of down to what you're available to do, what you're up for doing, and I suppose if the managers know you, they want you back for those shifts as well. So yes, it does quieten down because all the consultants from the private hospitals like to go away and they don't do as many surgeries, because that is the holiday time over here, and they don't do as many surgeries, so they don't have that urgency for agency nurses, so it can quieten down a little bit, but there's a lot of ways to compensate for that too. So for example, Healthcare Australia offer a few, I suppose, systems. So one of them is the points per hours, I think it is. God, I'm looking around the room now. So basically, if you work in a public hospital, you get 2 points. If you work in a private hospital, you get 1 point for every single hour that you work. So if I worked today in a public hospital, I worked 8 hours, I'd get 16 points. Now, when those points go to 500, you can cash them in. So you basically call the agency, say, look, I've reached 500 points, which is really easy to do if you work 30 hours a week, 40 hours a week. You call the agency and say, look, I've reached my 500 points, can I cash it in? And they cash it in for you, and then $500 goes into your account. So if you have things like that during the year, you can bank all of those hours up or all those points up, and then at Christmas time you can take it off, and then you can, cash in your 500 points or 1,000 points, whatever you've worked. Last year I did cash in 1,000 points. So you have that system as well. Also with Healthcare Australia, you can bank your hours. So basically what that means is every day you submit a a timesheet. So every single day you submit a timesheet. So this is the app that we use here. And there's just a little bit of a timesheet button there. So basically you submit your timesheets every single day. What you can do is that you can, instead of submitting your timesheet for 1 week, you can kind of keep it for the following week. So that means that you won't be paid for that shift that week. You can keep it for the following week or the week after, and you can just bank them all up. So if it does get quiet, then you can just bank in your shifts and get paid. Okay. Is it stressful changing from hospitals? I suppose that's why we recommend that you get your 12 months experience. So the more experience that you have, the more comfortable you'll feel with change. And that is me speaking from experience. So if I often think of when I first qualified, and I think, oh my God, imagine I had came over here straight away. I would have been like up the walls. So I was kind of glad that I had the experience that I did have, because it just allowed me to be a little bit more comfortable in my decisions. I was, I had that, I suppose, that experience. I don't keep saying that, but it's just so important to just really trust yourself and just to be really confident in what you're doing, and then change is so much easier. So that's why we do recommend the 12 months before you do come over. Do you ever have to travel for work, or will they put hospitals close to you? So they do put hospitals close to you, and they will try and allocate that, but I don't mind traveling. The trains are really easy to get around on, the buses are really easy. So if I have to travel, say, an hour, sometimes I do it, just because I might like the position that they're offering me. So recently I've been doing a lot of facilitation work with Healthcare Australia. So basically I've been like a CPC, and I've been required to travel an hour, but I didn't mind because I was doing what I loved, and that's just the odd time that I have to travel. Mainly I kind of work in St. Vincent's, as I said, and that's about a 20-minute journey from my house on the bus. What did you do about your accommodation when you first arrived? So I booked through Airbnb. So Airbnb is like an app that you can download, or it's a website as well, and it just brings up accommodations that are available in Australia or in Sydney, and you can just book, say, 3-4 weeks to stay at a house or stay somewhere, and then you can just kind of get your feet on the ground, get your few shifts in, and then go looking for somewhere that you want to live. Do you get the opportunity to work with students with this agency? Yes, you do, and that's what I've been doing for the last few months, and I absolutely love it. Can you do facilitation without having done it before? So we do recommend and have, and I think it's 5 years minimal experience. If you want to facilitate, I'd have to look into that. So maybe Mel can answer a couple of those questions for you guys. Do you have rural contracts? Yes, we do. What is the maximum hours you can work a week? There is no max and there's no minimum. So if you want to work 0 hours a week, you can. If you want to work 50 hours a week, you can. So what I did when I was really flexible when I first got here was I worked absolutely loads and banked up all my hours. I was working about 40 hours a week, saved up loads of money, and myself and David, if you were following me, you'll know that we went traveling the coast then. So what we did was we just took 2 weeks off work, traveled the whole east coast of Australia, and I didn't have to apply for leave. I didn't have to, tell the agency. I just, made myself unavailable for those shifts. Would you guys like me to go through the app and show you guys how it works? Let me know. It's really, really handy. It's like the most amazing thing ever. Okay, we've got one. Yes, okay, I'll show you anyway. Because I'm really nervous, so I just need something to talk about. So this is the app, guys. This is my app. Excuse my broken screen. Terry on the weekend, So yeah, so this is the app here. So basically you have a couple of options here. So this is your first option, which is my availability. So what you do is you pick you pick the day that you're available for every single week. So that's what I'm talking about, flexibility and 0 hours. So if my phone hurries up, I can show you. So yeah, so this is what I'm available for this week. So as you can see, I'm available for mornings and afternoons. So the green tick is what I've popped in as my availability. So the X is what I'm not available for, and the star is shifts that are allocated to me. So basically, you pop in your availability every week. The agency look at that, and then they pop you in for your shifts. So as you can see, I'm not available today because I'm in here in Healthcare Australia, and I'm available in the afternoons if I want to pick up a shift. So so that's the availability. So you just fill that out every week. The light went out. Hold on just 1 second. Can you guys still see me? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so that's what I do every single week. I just pick my shifts. If I want to work a morning, I'll work a morning. If I don't want to work, I don't work. So yeah, so that's that. Then you have your timesheets, which I'm sure they'll all laugh at me. All good? Yeah. So the timesheets, I'm sure Mel is going to laugh at looking at all my timesheets that are not submitted. You're going to be in so much trouble. So yeah, so every single day you get a timesheet that after your shift. So what you do is you go into that timesheet and then you scroll down. You go up to the nurse in charge and you just say to her, oh, can you sign me off? You hand her your phone and it's all electronic and they sign you off, and then that goes into the agency. You pick what day you want to be paid for that. And if, say, you're broke and you want to go out with the girls or you want to buy that pair of shoes, you can submit quick pay. So basically what that means is that you submit your timesheet really quickly and that goes in as a payment for the next day, providing that it's in before, I think, 3 o'clock or 1 o'clock. So providing that it's in before 1 o'clock, you'll get paid for that shift next day, which is so handy. So say if you worked a Saturday night, so going into Sunday morning, which is like where the big bucks is, say you did that and you wanted to be paid for that on Tuesday, you could submit it on Monday and then get paid for that night shift on the Tuesday and head off and buy your shoes or heading that night out that you wanted. Okay, so that's a little bit about the app. As I said, so that's the timesheets, the availability, and then the shifts as well. So you can always pick up the shifts. So if there's like a couple of shifts that aren't filled here in the agency, they'll pop them online. So you can just scroll through them and say, okay, yeah, I'll take that one in Vinnie's. Okay, I'll take that one afternoon here, there, wherever. And you just click it and then you're booked into the shift. You can also, the girls will also ring you as well if you want. And if you're cancelling a shift, all you have to do is just ring within a reasonable time and cancel the shift, like I did yesterday. I was supposed to be on a double and I got to the shift. I realised I had a lot to do in the afternoon, and then I just cancelled my afternoon shift within a reasonable time, and I went and did all my things that I had to do and then hit the beach. So yeah, it's all about, like, I suppose, having that work-life balance, and that's definitely what Healthcare Australia is all about. So I'll just go back to a couple of the questions. God, they're flying in. For an example, okay. Any tips on finding accommodation? So I've said that. if I'm coming from Ireland, is there a form that we need to download from APRA? So just as I said, go onto the APRA website, it's all there, and that should answer a lot of your questions. How did you get your documents certified? So in Ireland, if you're having your documents certified, it can't be done by a peace commissioner, it has to be done by a solicitor. So there's a solicitor in Inchicore, I know if you're in Dublin, she's in Inchicore, I can't remember the name of her, but I think she's the only solicitor kind of in that area, and she only charges €50 to do all of your documents, rather than charging you like €20 per page. So just look up solicitor in Inchicore and she should be there. Can you work any place with HCA or Oz, or is it just in Sydney? Okay, so this is another thing that I want to talk about. So basically with Healthcare Australia, you can come over and work in Sydney. Sorry, I'll just move that. You can come over and work in Sydney, and then you say you came over with your girls or your friends, or you met people out here and you wanted to go travel on the coast. You could work in Sydney for a couple of weeks and then decide, I want to go up to Brisbane. All you have to do is ring the office, just say, look, I'm going to be up in Brisbane, I need some shifts up there. You can go up to Brisbane and get some shifts there. You can work on the Gold Coast, you can work like all the way up the coast. Also in Adelaide and Melbourne you can work. So if you just want to go travel and work, you can do that as well. That's absolutely no problem. You just need to let the agency know and they'll give you shifts as per your destination. And I've met a lot of girls that have done that along the way. So they've worked in every single city over the course of the 6 months or the year, and they've absolutely loved it. So it's a way of getting around, I suppose, Australia and seeing everything and working at the same time and earning some money. Can you decide what you would do on a shift? So you will be allocated your patients and then you can go from there. So I don't know what you mean by that question. Is it like is that the ward that you go to? So once you arrive in the hospital, they'll allocate you to the ward. So Healthcare Australia just allocate you to the hospital. Sometimes they'll get a specific ward, but mainly it's like, say if I go to Phoenix, they'll say, oh, you're up on level 7 today on cardiothoracics, and I'll go up there and I'll work there for the day. What's the benefits of working with HCA? So I think you've all just seen a lot of the benefits. One of the main benefits for me, and I keep saying it, is just I have a life. So I work what I want when I want. I mainly try and work from 7 until 2 or 7 till 3 because it suits David's shifts, and he can finish up at 3 and the two of us just meet each other down the beach, or we go for food or we meet up with our friends. So that's what I kind of try and do, is all the morning shifts. Occasionally I'll do an afternoon shift just to kind of get the hours in and just get a bit of extra cash. I haven't worked a night shift since I think it's January, because nights are like the bane of my life. I hate them. So I just don't work nights. My friend Jenny, who is here in Australia, she worked loads of nights just because it suited her, and she was able to get loads of money, loads of hours in, and that's just what suited her. But yeah, nights, no thanks. Kind of Justice of Peace certified documents in Northern Ireland? No. So no Peace Commissioner or Justice of Peace can certify documents. It has to be a solicitor, girls, and I've made that mistake. So that's just a word of advice. I'm worried about tax. So if you're worried about tax, if you're coming over here on a holiday working visa, you can claim all of your tax back. Some of your tax back in, I think it's, God, when did I claim mine? I think it's April or May of every year. I hope I'm right. I'm sure all the Australian people are watching this are laughing at me. I think it's May that you can claim it back. So you do get tax back because you're not a resident or a citizen here in Australia. So you're not really contributing to the government. So you do get it back as a holiday working visa. What's the starting wage for a newly qualified nurse? So the rates are really, really good. I can't really tell you exactly what it is because I don't know, but I'm sure if you want to email, they can give you some more information on that, but it is amazing, trust me. I was blown away by the hourly rate here with Healthcare Australia. When I first got here, I was like, are you sure? Are you sure that's my hourly rate? That was really funny. What would you do in detail on a shift? So what are your tasks? So a morning shift. So you get in, you do your medications, ADLs, antibiotics, diagnostic tests, whatever the patient's gone down for, pre-op, post-op. It's the same thing, it's just at a lower scale because you've only got 4 patients. Like some days I go in, like the shift that I had yesterday, and I started off with 5 patients because I was on a private ward. 2 of them got discharged home and I had 3 patients for 8 hours. I was like, would you like a massage? Honestly, it was just so nice, and you just get to really interact with your patients a little bit more, and you really have that contact with them. So yeah, it's really good. How much money do you recommend before coming over? So I think the requirements for the holiday working visa, if I remember correctly, is you have to have $5,000 coming into the country. So that's €3,800 coming to Australia. So that's plenty of money. If you're going to work straight away like I did, that's plenty of money to get yourself set up and, get your place to stay for a couple of weeks, pay your rent and get your feet in the ground with Healthcare Australia, get some shifts and start earning money and start enjoying yourself. So that's plenty. Is there much bed baths and bed making like in Ireland? So they have AINs on the ward, which is like Healthcare Australia, or like healthcare assistants. Healthcare Australia is on the brain. So healthcare assistants, so they're called AINs here, and they're assistants in nursing, and there's so many of them on the ward, and they're absolutely incredible. So I still do ADLs with patients, but just not as much as what I would have done back at home, because it's like, I suppose that kind of workload is taken off you, so you can do medications and IV antibiotics, and that you don't make mistakes and things like that. So you haven't got all those ADLs in the back of your mind, stressing about those. You still kind of have to do them, girls. You're still a nurse, and we are expected to, help patients in that way and do ADLs. So with regards to the workload, it's definitely decreased because of the amount of AINs on the ward. Are you only told about shifts last minute? Nope, my shifts are booked sometimes a week, 2 weeks in advance. I know all my shifts for next week. I have my whole week planned out next week. And I'm heading up to the Gold Coast on Friday evening, so I'm not working Friday evening, and I'll spend my time over the weekend on the Gold Coast, and I don't have to worry about being booked or anything like that. I've got all my hours done. I've got all my shifts sorted. So yeah, it's not like you get a phone call up like, I suppose an hour before the shift. Sometimes that happens, if you're really wanting some work, they'll keep you in their minds. And then if a shift comes in, they'll be like, oh, Terry, can you work tonight? You've seen that you're available. And you'll be like, yeah, okay, I'll go in. But it's never like you're sitting there, you've no work and you're just waiting on the call. It's always kind of booked in advance. How long did you stay on holiday working visa for, and when do you apply for a permanent visa? So I had got my holiday working visa for a year, but after I think it was 5 months working with Healthcare Australia, I got sponsored with Healthcare Australia. How many times have I said that? Yeah, so I got sponsored with HCA, and absolutely really, really enjoying it so far. And I'm here until my visa says 2020. But see what happens. That's a bit scary. Did you have to do rural work? No, because I went straight and got sponsored. I was not going to do farm work, girls. That just wasn't happening. There's just no way I was out there picking bananas or whatever. Not happening. What am I going to do? Okay. HCA have a free flight promo. So if you just look in the comment box, Healthcare Australia are talking about the free flight. So there is some more information on that on the website. So we do offer a free flight program at the moment. If you want to have a little bit more of a read of that, it's on the website. What other questions have we got? Do you pay do I pay my registration every year from Ireland? So do I pay my onboard alternates? Yes, I do. I just choose to because you just never know what the future is going to bring, and I just wouldn't want that hassle of going home and having to get registered again. So I just kind of keep up to date with my registration back at home. Did Trinity send your transcripts to APRA, or is it okay if you have your originals to send them yourself? So I had Trinity send out my transcripts. I had them certified by a solicitor, and then I sent them to APRA myself. I like to have control of what's going on, so that's just what I did. Did you apply for your visa first or your APRA? It really doesn't matter. I applied for my visa first. You have 12 months after you apply for your visa to enter the country. So if you apply for your visa in February this year, February 2017, you have until February 2018 to get to the country before that expires. So it just depends on what your time frame is. I did apply for my visa first and then for my APRA, and it was a little bit handy having that because I was able to submit my visa with my APRA just to prove my identity, and I suppose it did help. Can you put your Irish registration on hold? I don't think so. I just pay mine just to kind of keep it there. Was it hard to get sponsored? No. Healthcare Australia are offering sponsorship if any of you are interested in it. Do you bring your own scrubs or do they provide you with uniforms? Healthcare Australia do provide you with uniforms. I have a couple here. I won't show you. Yeah, so they basically, when you come in for your orientation, they give you a couple of t-shirts, the Healthcare Australia logo on them, and you just turn up to work with your Healthcare Australia top, your black trousers, suitable shoes, and you're good to go. Is there much work for boyfriends in Oz, business marketing, not nursing? Yes, David found work really easy. There's plenty of work here. It's absolutely booming over here. Yeah, there's lots of construction work, I do know that. What else? Do you bring your own scrubs? What else? Is there a good support in the hospital setting as an agency nurse for the first few shifts? As I said, yes, the nurse unit educators are amazing, and they're really, really good for just getting you set up. I can't speak more highly of them because they've been just so helpful to me, and they're all just so lovely and so knowledgeable. And I just constantly, even to this day, like yesterday, I was working a shift in Vinnie's and I had a nurse educator with me for most of the day. I was just like, oh, can you just show me this? And they just do not mind at all. They're glad for you to be asking questions, so you do have that support all the time. And yeah, because I just had a little bit of a difficult patient, and just with regards to calling doctors, who to call, what's the suitable protocol, where do we go from here, just to have that little bit of extra support, and that senior nurse just to ask all the time is really good. Yeah, so any tips for someone in the first year of nursing? Good luck. No, just work hard, I suppose, and ask lots of questions. Is there many opportunities for ID nursing? Yes, there is definitely. I suppose I'll ask Mel to kind of elaborate a little bit on that. If you want to email her or any of the girls that are working on this chat here, they might be able to answer a little bit more questions with ID. Because I'm not intellectual disability trained, I find it hard to ask questions to answer questions appropriately, just because I don't know exactly what the system is, so I don't want to give you any wrong answers, so I'll let them answer those for you. Would you ever consider becoming a nursing professor? No way. Did you find it hard to make friends when you're changing wards? The hospitals that you get sent to every single day, I suppose you do get sent to the same hospitals over and over again, and you do get to know the staff. So the wards that I tend to go to are always the same ones, and I do get to know everybody and make friends. Like the girls from Vinnie's asked me to go to their Christmas party a couple of weeks ago, so that was nice. And yeah, you just kind of get to know people, and as long as you're a hard worker and you just get stuck in, you'll always do yourself well, and people will always kind of be drawn to you as well, especially in the nursing world. And for children's and general nurse, would you need 1 year experience in each postgrad in order to have more options with HCA? So with children and general nursing, I'd kind of recommend nearly up to 2 years experience, 1 to 2 years experience, just because children's is so specialised, and you do want to hit the ground running, as I said. APRA process is around $500. Yeah, that's right. Any advice for theatre nursing? Oh my god, if you're a theatre nurse or an ICU nurse or HDU, you need to get over here. There's so much work. If you're theatre scrub trained, oh my god, there's so much work. I can't even tell you. Constantly, every single day, they're looking for theatre nurses over here. So if you come here, you'll absolutely be out the door. You'll make a fortune. Psychiatric nursing. Is psychiatric nursing the same over in Australia as it is back at home, such an acute and community setting? I'm not a psych trained nurse, but from what I've gathered from speaking to other psych nurses, is that it's really, really good. It's a really good I suppose setup over here. The workload is definitely lower, and it's quite different to back at home. Again, I'm not psych trained and I'm not ID trained. I'm sorry if I'm not able to elaborate and answer your questions. I would like to answer them more, but it's just I haven't got experience in that area. And maybe Mel and the girls will be able to answer some more questions if you want to hit them up with an email. If you have specific, sorry, I can't read. My contacts are like rolling around. If you have an interest in a specific area with HCA, will HCA offer you training and upskilling? Yes, there's plenty of courses here. I have myself booked into a course in February with Healthcare Australia. It does cost money to get set up in a course, but they do offer programs where you can pay like an endorsement. So one of the courses that I really want to do next year is, I think it's $1,500. So I'm going to pay that in an endorsement, and it's going to come straight out my wages until it's paid off, and then I'll sit the course then. So yeah, there's loads of learning opportunities, loads of room for growth, and especially with Healthcare Australia, because they do run the courses here in the office. Does working in Australia affect your increment back at home? I'm not actually sure if that does. I know that if you were to work here in Australia, you can always get Healthcare Australia to give you a reference and basically to tot up all your hours and have that, I suppose, as a reference to go back home and to be like, look, I was working full time, I was working 38 hours, so it shouldn't affect your increment. If you're still gaining experience, if you're still working as an RN or registered nurse, it shouldn't affect it, because you're still gaining that experience, you're still moving forward. Yeah. Is there any downfalls to working in Australia? The only downfall that I found so far is missing home. So yeah, just I suppose just missing your family and your friends. But we've made plenty of friends over here, and we Skype every day back at home. So that's the only kind of the thing that I suppose that I miss the most. The biggest regret that I have so far is waiting so long to come to Australia. So I was 4 years nursing back at home, and I wish that I had come after 2 years, just because I'm 27 now, and I wish that I kind of had been here like a lot longer. So yeah, that's the only kind of regret that I have, which is a good regret to have. Is there much surgical work about? Yes, that's all I work in. I do so much surgical work. Yeah. Is it hard to work in such a hot climate? No, the hospitals are freezing. So yeah, they're well air conditioned. You don't even know. I look out the window sometimes and it could be like 38 degrees and the sun is splitting the trees, and I'm like, oh, I need to put on a cardigan, I'm so cold because of the aircon. So yeah, no, it doesn't affect you at all. Is there much work for midwives? Yes, there's plenty of work here for midwives. Is it hard to work in such a... Oh, I've already answered that. Is there much work in emergency departments? Yes, I've been sent to an emergency department a couple of times just to cover shifts. Obviously, I was put into like the, I suppose, fast track. So I think it's fast track. I think I'm saying that right. It was a couple of months ago. So basically, I'd just be working with like the patients that come in that are like, you know, I suppose low. They require like a really low amount of care. So yeah, there's loads of emergency work, and I do see a lot of Healthcare Australia t-shirts floating around the ED departments when I'm facilitating. What countries did you travel before you came to Australia, and what would you recommend? So I travelled Southeast Asia before I arrived in Australia. So I travelled for 2 months around Thailand, Singapore, Philippines, Bali, and then I arrived in Sydney. Got set up for Healthcare Australia, and I travelled the coast then, the East Coast, and then came back down and kept working with them. So yeah, it's really good. And I've travelled loads in between, like because it's so flexible. I've travelled to Miami, Florida. I've went back to Bali. I've been to Brisbane. I've been to the Gold Coast. I'm constantly flying around because you're not in competition with anybody for annual leave, I suppose, and you can just pick your hours. So it's really, really good if you want to travel. So how much experience should you have before you come over? So I've already talked about that. So about 12 months to 2 years. Do you get to request hospitals to work in, or are they allocated to you? So you can request, so you can get your DUSENS, or you can apply for your DUSENS. So what that means is, like, say you like go to, I don't know, one of the hospitals that I really liked to go to was St. George, private. Really, really enjoyed to work there on a shift, and I called the agency and I was like, oh my God, if there's any more shifts there, I'd really like to go. So they just pop that down as a DUSEND, and you know, if any shifts come up there, then they'll call me and just say, oh, just so you know, there's a shift going in St. George private if you want to head out there, and I'll go out there, or Vinnie's, or wherever. So you can pick where you want. So if you do go to a hospital and you really don't like it for some reason, you can also just be like, look, don't send me there again, didn't enjoy it, didn't like the ward, blah, 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 and they can just pop that down and it's no drama. Do HCA have links to work in New Zealand as well? As far as I know, they do. Do all nurses require health check for Oz visa? Yes, they do. So back in Ireland, when I applied for my visa, I straight away got a form sent out via email, and it just said that I had to have a medical done. So it sent me, I think it was the Mater Private in Dublin, and I went in there, I think it was 100 or 200 euro, and I had my medical done then. Oh God, am I getting a bit hooky? Oh, thanks, Julia. Yeah, so I had my my medical done, and then my so basically I think it was a chest X-ray. A doctor like had a look at my stomach. He like palpated my stomach. I was like, €300 for this, seriously. But anyway, they took bloods, HIV screen, TB, the whole lot, and then I just came in with a list of my vaccinations, and that all got sent off, and then my visa came in within, I think it was 7 days later. So if you're a nurse and you've been in contact with, you know, I suppose sick patients, TB, if you've been in a hospital setting and you plan to work in a hospital setting coming to Australia, you are required to get a medical done. Would you be able to send information regarding who can certify documents? I'll tell you what, I will try and find the girl who certified my documents in Dublin, and I will put it on Snapchat for you guys if that helps. So I'll put that up today. I'll find her and I'll put it up today if you guys want to screenshot it, and that might be helpful because she is really cheap. Do all hospitals have 3 split shifts? Yes, mainly. I have yet to do a longer shift than 8 hours. Sometimes, as I said, sometimes I do a double shift. So I'll start at 7, I'll work till 2:30, and then stay on the same ward for the second shift, so 2:30 till 10. And that's just the way I like to work sometimes because I'm used to long days back at home. So from 7 till 10 o'clock at night, which is really long, but I just like to get my hours in so I can just relax and take a day off and go to the beach during the week. And it's not that hard. If you're used to doing long days, well, then you'll be well able to do doubles, and it's a good way to get your hours in. Do you have to do any entry exam or anything to register NOS? No, you just need to get your APRA. So once you've been approved to nurse in Ireland, you apply for your APRA, you're good to go once that comes through. Can a nurse with 1 year's experience in theatre and recovery work normal agency shifts, example on a surgical ward? So as I said, it just depends on your competencies. So if you've worked in theatre for the last 12 months and then you were thrown onto a surgical ward, like would you be confident to take care of those patients? So they do have to look at your competencies, what you've been doing as a qualified nurse, and then allocate you as per those competencies. So just like I wouldn't recommend if you worked somewhere for 12 months, say in theatre or recovery, and then just to throw yourself into a ward, because you just feel so lost, and to come to a new country and to try and do that over here, it'd be really, really difficult. So as I said, just if you want to come to Australia and you want to work on a surgical ward, then I'd recommend that you have surgical experience. And if you want to work in theatre, then have theatre experience. Did you get your work holiday visa prior to submitting your APRA? So I've answered that already. So yes, I got my visa first and then I applied for APRA, but it doesn't matter. Do you get your, how good are they with breaks? I work 12.5 hours and mostly only get 30-minute breaks in the whole shift. Okay. I can relate to that. I know I always kind of got breaks when I was back at home. I was lucky. But out here, so if you work from 7 till 2:30, you get a 15-minute break in the morning, which is paid, and then you get a 30-minute break in the before you, like around 12 o'clock. So what I do is in the morning I get, say, a break at about 9:45 until 10 o'clock. I grab a cup of tea, and then at about 11:30 I'll take my half an hour break, and I'll work until 2:30 then. Like sometimes I'm like, I don't even need a break because I'm so used to just kind of going from nursing in Ireland. But yeah, the breaks are really, really good, and they're really, really like, oh, have you taken a break yet? Make sure you get a break. And sometimes it's so slow that they're just like, I'll just go on a break. Like, so they're really, really good. And if it's a thing that you do miss a break, you just submit it in the electronic app. So you just submitted that you missed your break, and you will be paid for the half an hour that you didn't take your break on. What are the people like in Australia compared to Ireland? They're absolutely lovely. They're so laid back and so amazing. I absolutely love the Australians. And I'm not just saying that because my boss is watching. I would love, hold on. I've got 8 years ICU outreach experience. Would my experience be noted, or would I have to start at the bottom again? You would definitely be noted. So as I said, there's lots of ICU experience, lots of ICU work here. So if you came over, you'd be lapped up every single day. You'd have work. You'd be absolutely out the door, especially with 8 years experience. That's like gold dust. So yeah, you need to email us. I'm working with stroke and rehab. I'm working within stroke and rehab ward, hopefully doing a stroke care course through university again next year. Are there opportunities around this area? Yes, definitely. There's lots of stroke work, that's terrible, but there's lots of rehabilitation and stroke units here in Australia. I've worked in lots of them. So if that's what you're interested in, as I said, come over and mention it to the girls. If it's going, they'll give you the work. Okay, I think we're slowing down a little bit. On the question side. So if anybody else has any more questions, pop them in. I don't know how long we'll go for, but I don't mind. So once you've applied for your visa, you have 12 months to enter, yeah. Hi, could you put a copy of some of the questions and answers here, please? Yes, I'm sure we can do something. Okay, so I hope you guys have found this helpful. If there's anything else that you guys want me to touch on, just let me know in the next few minutes. Oh, no problem. Somebody's like, thanks for your time, Terry. No problems at all. Yeah, so if you have any more questions or if I haven't answered, just let me know now because I am here and I'm happy to answer them. I would experience working with the likes of account. How much money would you recommend to travel around Southeast Asia? How long did it take you to complete your APRA application? So that's the question. It took me, hold on, somebody just asked me my Snapchat, so I'll pop that in there for you guys. Yeah, just so you have it. That's my Snapchat. I've just popped it in on Healthcare Australia 1. For those of you who want to ask more questions, maybe later on. So how long did it take me to complete my APRA? So I spent time on my APRA and it really, really benefited me in the end. So I spent about 3 months preparing. So I literally had everything to a T. I sent it into APRA and I've heard horror stories that comes back and you need more, information, you've missed a bit, blah, 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 and it could take up to 6 months. So mine came in within 6 weeks and everybody I say that to, they're like, that's crazy. But it's because I just really read it. I went over it about 1,000 times. Those blood, sweat and tears went into it. So I did spend time and it took me about 2 months to 3 months to really perfect it. And I suppose it's a big waiting game. So you're constantly like getting in touch with the uni. Can I have my transcripts? You're waiting on them to send them out. Then you're waiting to go to a peace commission or to a solicitor and get that. Like it's just always kind of something. So if you're planning on going, say in September, I would recommend that you start your APRA form in February or March and really get stuck in. Perfect. Oh, thank you. I'm the best Snapchatter to follow apparently. What is a peace commissioner? So forget the peace commissioner. A peace commissioner is not feasible to certify your documents in Ireland. I've made that mistake. It has to be a solicitor. So just forget the peace commissioner thing. What's your favourite area to work in? I'm leaning towards A&E. So would there be much work with Healthcare Australia? So my favourite place to work in is surgical. Anything surgical, just throw it my way. It's what I'm comfortable with. And as I said, just let the girls know what you want and they'll do their best to send you to those places. The workload. Okay, so hi, I'm currently working in A&E, but not really enjoying it as the workload is quite excessive. I have 12 months post-grad experience. Would I be eligible to work in the wards in Australia with this experience? That's a tricky one because ED and the wards can be a little bit different, but they can be very similar at the same time. So maybe the girls can help you with that question. I'd imagine that you'd need some ward experience as well. But I'll just let the girls answer that question because I'm not 100% sure. Have you any plans to move back to Ireland? So no, not at the moment. I'm just having a really good time, really enjoying myself, and yeah, I have no intentions to go back anyway in the foreseeable future. I have lots of travel plans, but not to go back to Ireland. Hopefully in February I will be back with Healthcare Australia doing another roadshow for those of you who are interested in coming and signing up, and we'll let you know a little bit more about the dates then. What's your plans for the future working with Healthcare Australia? So Healthcare Australia are offering a lot of facilitation work at the moment and that's what I'm interested in because I want to build up my CV. I've been booked at a couple of universities for next year to work and I'll have students, so I'm block booked next year to work away, and hopefully I want to just do a little bit more do a few more courses and just I suppose keep going, keep trucking along and keep being the best that I can be. Is there any work for healthcare attendants? So yes, there is. They're called AINs here and there's plenty of work here as far as I know. Have you found being away from home hard? I'm a home bird and hate the thought of moving away. Yes, at times, especially at the moment because David's mum is quite sick. But she's getting better and that can be a little bit hard, and we do have like our days, so yeah, it can be hard, but you know what, if it's your dream, I think you need to go and do it. I'd rather, you know, regret doing something than regret not doing it. So, you know, you'll only know it until you try it, and if you miss home you can always go back home. There's always that flight home. I'll be 30 next year. Will this affect my chances of going to Oz if I decide to go to work? So David was the same age as you as we were coming over here, and we went on the holiday working visa. So I think you can apply for that up until you're 31, and then you have to go on a different visa. So the holiday working visa is only feasible until you're 31. Is it worth coming over and work as a healthcare assistant while waiting on your nursing pin? If you want, that's just something that I wouldn't be interested in doing, but I've seen a lot of girls doing it. It is available. Healthcare Australia can help you work as an AIN while you're waiting on your pin, but if I was you, I'd just stick it out and get your pin first and come over and work as a nurse. If I'm being completely honest, I just couldn't work as a healthcare attendant, and yeah. I just from going from being nurse into that, I'd just be too like, oh, I want to do something else. Like, yeah. So is it worth? Okay. So I think I've answered everything. The questions have slowed down, so I must have answered a lot of your questions. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. I really, really appreciate it. And if it was helpful, let me know. And I will try and do another one of these hopefully soon, and there'll be less dramas. It was like a nightmare setting it up, so I do apologise for the wait, but we got there in the end. So yeah, I hope that was helpful, and please let me know, as I said, if you want to do it again. I think I'll head on now. No problems. Oh, I'm glad that you guys enjoyed it. Yay!